And that's our 2 hours for this Saturday night on Folk Singers New York. The Highwayman, The Devil's Away, Marianne, I'll Fly Away. The Seekers with the ox-driving song, Kumbaya. Burl Ives sang To Robin He Married, Tam Pierce. And Nina and Frederick, I Would Amore Her. Patricia Clark, The Rowan Tree, We Shall Overcome. That was Pete Seeger and group. And This Little Light of Mine by The Seekers. We'll be back next Saturday night at the same time, 8:30, 2 hours before the Gene Shepherd program. And again, if you have any particular selection that you'd like to have played, let me know. We'll be very happy to try to dig it out for you. The address is Bruce Elliott of Folk Singers New York, WOR, New York 18. And I hope I'll hear from you. And I'll see you maybe next Saturday night at 8:30. This is WOR AM and FM, your RKO General Station in New York. Correct Eastern Daylight Saving Time is now 10:30. Time for Gene Shepherd from the Village Limelight.
Come on. I've just got to apologize to the radio listener out there. We are broadcasting from a den of sin and debauchery. We are broadcasting from a hotbed of total depravity that makes Sodom and Gomorrah look like Circleville, Ohio. We are right in the heart of Greenwich Village. And you all know what Greenwich Village is like. And we're right in the heart of Greenwich Village. Right on 7th Avenue South, where truth, where beauty, where poetry flows like a deep, rich stream heading towards the Hudson. And then it takes a left turn. And we're right here in the limelight, which is, I say, in the heart of Greenwich Village. Now, these are all very special things. And on a Saturday night, and Saturday is a special night in America, as we know, there is one thing that we must do before we do anything else tonight. This is a fantastic anniversary, a purely American anniversary. Are you aware that exactly 90 years ago tonight, General George Armstrong Custer laid a fantastic egg? Are you aware that 90 years ago today, right now, George Armstrong Custer, a great American general, really pulled a fantastic boo-boo? Oh, yeah, the Cheyennes and the Sioux. And today I saw on television, did you see him? I saw an Indian who is 98 years old. He was 8 years old at the time of the giant fiasco. And the interviewer asked him, he says, do you Cheyennes consider General Armstrong, Custer? Do you consider General Custer a great general? And he said, no. And he says, well, what do you consider him? He says, we won. Here's this old duffer. He says, we won. And tonight, the Sioux, are you aware that tonight the Sioux and the Cheyennes, all over the country, this is their 4th of July. That is a fact. They are celebrating, you know. They had a fantastic victory, you know, and it's like the Mets. They don't win many, but, you know, when they win them, they celebrate big. So I thought about this. I said, gee, that's a purely American thing. That here was a guy who laid an egg. George Armstrong Custer. General Custer. And by the way, do you know anything about Custer? Custer was a real showboat. He had long blonde hair. There is even rumor that he put it up at night. Yeah, that's a fact. There are many rumors that he put it up. You know, he would disappear to his tent with his dippity-doo, you know. And, you know, he is not to be disturbed for the next 45 minutes. I could just see that runner coming in, you know, fantastic battle is breaking out, and he runs in. The general says, I'm in my corners, get out. There he is, you see, and he had this long blonde hair. And do any of you know how General Custer got his commission? What a fantastic story that is. General Custer was a second lieutenant. I mean, just a plain, ordinary, there's a great phrase in the Army, which I can't use on the air. You have to fill in those blanks. A blank, blank second lieutenant. He's just a plain, ordinary one, see, and he's walking around, and somewhere, now this is a true story, it's one of those unbelievable moments, somewhere way up, and it's in the Civil War, see, very official war. There's official guys like Grant and Sheridan and Burnside walking around, and here is this second lieutenant who practically got kicked out of West Point for goofing off. He's down there way in the boondocks, and somebody, get this, made a mistake in the War Department. And all of a sudden, these orders came down to be made Brigadier General. It was a mistake. And here he is. Yeah, it's a true story. He's sitting in his tent, you know. He's a second lieutenant. You know, everything's going rotten. He's got this crummy squad that he's running. Bunch of idiotic dog faces who are angry, and they've been on KP all day, and he's been running the scene. When all of a sudden, the guy comes running down from the headquarters. He says, sir, the orders have just come. And he looks up, and it's a major who is calling him sir. And he says, what orders? He says, sir, your confirmation just arrived. And he looked at it. Incredibly, he was now a brigadier general. It says to be made brigadier general, second lieutenant George Armstrong Custer. Well, he did something that none of us would do. What would be the first thing you do? Well, the first thing you do, you obviously know that somebody loused up. The first thing, every one of us, I'll tell you, there's a difference between guys that make it and the rest of us. The first thing that most of us would do, we'd go down to the tent and say, hey, there's a mistake. Yeah, isn't that true? You say, oh, what is this, you know? And it's, holy smokes, give me that thing. And they rip it up, you know. Get back to your tent, Lieutenant. Oh, no, what did Custer do? He grabbed that paper. He took one look at it. 30 seconds later, he's at the tailor shop. That's the truth. They turned him out a brigadier general's uniform that didn't stop. Red, white, and blue sleeves that had a big stars on. He had neon stars. He discovered neon, you know. He had stars that lit up. He's a brigadier general. And he's got the paper, see, and he walks down now, absolutely all by himself. He walks down through the company street, and guys are fainting, you know. He's a 21-year-old brigadier general. You know, and they remembered his lieutenant that looked like that. Also, holy smokes, and they're saluting. He walks into the Army headquarters, right where they had sent the papers from. He says, I need transportation, 21,000 men, and I'm going to go to the Battle of Shiloh. Get on the ball. No, this is the truth. And they look at this new brigadier general. They can't believe it. Somebody gets on the telegraph wire and wires Washington and says, what is this thing, this new general? And in Washington, they were so embarrassed at the War Department that they wired back and they says, let him keep it. Now, there is a lesson for us. You see what he did? He played it big. He went all the way. He didn't go down and give him a chance. I made a mistake. That reminds me, you know, I read that story of Custer, and I thought, gee, what a fantastic, that is a true dream situation. How many of us have had fantasies like that? We're laying in our sack, you know. The phone rings. We get up. We stagger. We pick it up. Yeah. White House. They want what? Are you sure? Look, my name is Charles Williams Applewright. The president is on the phone. He wants me to come down and take charge of the Defense Department because of the ideas that I was giving out the other day, a chock full of nuts. They heard about it? You know, these fantastic moments, you just think, I'm a kid. Let me tell you a story. Boy, I'll tell you, it was an unbelievable moment in my life. I am working in the mailroom of this giant steel mill. Now, oh, by the way, are you aware that there's no such thing as a mailroom any longer in the jazzy Madison Avenue agencies? It is called the Communication Division. So you can't work in the mailroom anymore, you know? And the guy that carries the basket between the 23rd and the 24th floor, he is known as a trainee liaison officer now. You know, that reminds me, incidentally, I'm driving on the turnpike today. I'm a great student of the way they name cars. I think this is very significant. And there was a time, oh yeah, only the British would name a car Minx. It's a little thing, you know. You know that the Japanese name their cars little things like Fair Lady, little subtle things. Our cars are named usually after elements, like tempest, a thundering tempest, fury, anger. That's what runs through the names of the cars. And today, did you see this new one? I'm driving along the turnpike, and here is this Oxford gray car ahead of me. Charcoal gray, see? It's even got little button-down collars in the back. Instead of a trunk, it's got buttons, you know. Buttons down, and I drive past it, and on the side it says, in beautiful block Gothic letters, kind of stainless steel, very simple, you know. It says, Pontiac Executive. Isn't that a great name for a car? Pontiac Executive. Can't you imagine their lower price model is Executive Trainee? You know? And their sport model is PR Man. It's all chrome, stainless steel, you know. Yeah, you know, and I thought, gee, this is a great way to name a car. And I thought, and I thought to myself, gee, isn't it sad? Can't you imagine this guy who works in the mailroom, and he goes out and buys himself a Pontiac Executive. And he drives down the street, and there it is. It says it for him. As a matter of fact, did you hear that beer commercial, that ale commercial? Oh, yeah, there's a lot more going today when you buy something than just to buy it. There is a commercial that comes on, Ballantine, Ballantine, Ballantine ale. And this guy comes on, he says, yes, ale is the drink for more manly men. Yes, ale is more manly. When you want to step up to manhood, yes, buy yourself a Ballantine ale, the manlier brew. And then this voice comes in and says, I like being an ale man. And it sounds like Ursula Andress. Did you hear that scene, you know? And I thought to myself, you know, gee, isn't it easy so you can be a man? All you got to do, it would settle all those problems of identity. You know that all these guys are always writing about Al being these people? All you got to do is go to your local tavern and order a Ballantine ale. Sip it, and you can feel the hair growing on your chest. Yeah, and there's one of these commercials, you know, it's very suspicious because it shows about 6 tall, thin guys with wavy hair all on the beach drinking ale. And there ain't a girl in sight. Have you seen that crowd on TV? You know, they keep going, whoa! Did you bring the Ballantine, Chucky? You know, oh, life is getting rich, I'll tell you. Well, you know, I'm thinking of George Armstrong Custer and his great moment. You see, I think it is... I think one of the reasons why we make a hero out of George Armstrong Custer... And by the way, I heard an Army officer on the air today. He said that what Custer did, if he did it today, he would get court-martialed. Yeah, he really loused up. You heard what he did. He busted his troops all up into little groups, and one started a USO show or something. Oh, yeah, and they got off their horses, and they were having a picnic and everything. And the Sioux came down and really gave them what for, see. But I could see why we make General Custer a national hero. It's because he did something that secretly we all want to do. He made it. And he made it by cheating. Yeah, he became a brigadier general by getting the wrong orders. And in addition to that, his greatest claim to fame is a defeat. How more American? I mean, seriously, Custer is due for a big renaissance in this age of Met worshipers. I mean, people who worship the Mets because they lose, you know. Now that he's a perfect Met right there from the beginning. And I thought about this. Have you ever gone out to watch the Mets? The thing about the Mets that is so funny is they're like, in a way, they're very much like Custer. They have beautiful uniforms. You ever watch those Met uniforms in color? They look fantastic. It's got a big red and black and white, big Mets across the front, big numbers that light up. Yeah, on the back, you know, big number 7 or number 6, which, by the way, indicates that Mets batting average. You know, 21. He's batting. They don't show you the 0 before it, you know. All right, what up? Okay, fella, we give you your show after we go off the air, okay? And here's the story of the Mets, all perfectly outlined. This is the day of the losers. And one time, I'm a kid, and I am working in the steel mill. Now, I don't know how any of you have ever worked in a gigantic corporation that is so big, it's unimaginable. I mean, it stretches for hundreds of miles. It's got big mills. It's got open hearths. It's got blast furnaces. And way up at the peak of this structure are the really big movers, the prime movers, the general superintendent. I mean, you laugh. Let me tell you, a guy's a general superintendent of a steel mill. This is at least a lieutenant general. I mean, a general superintendent. Superintendent in charge of production. And I'm a mail boy, see. And these names on the envelopes were just sort of hallowed names. And every day I'd be in the mailroom, you know, we're sorting the mail. There's 6 of us. And we had to know everybody in the steel mill who ever got any mail. Important guys. The general superintendent. The superintendent in charge of blast furnaces. The superintendent of the open hearth. Yeah. And the chairman of the board. Can you imagine that? I mean, it's beyond imagining that these aren't real men. They don't put socks on. You know, you just can't imagine the chairman of the board hollering, I ain't got no clean underwear today. What am I going to wear to the office? You just can't imagine him in real life doing that stuff, you know. Or waking up in the morning and he's shaving. I can't imagine the president shaving in the morning. I just can't. Shaving and cutting himself. And he looks and the blood flows. And he's using a super stainless steel blade. And he saw it on television. You know, he's just like all the rest of you. You notice those guys on TV shave like this? It's all gone, you know. You ever tried that, Dad? Woo! I mean, half an ear comes off, you know. Big chunks, just like you're carving summer sausage, you know. Oh, yeah, you know. Here's the president. He cuts himself shaving. And he's been using the same blade for 6 weeks. You know, you can't imagine the president living like that. I mean, who goes out and buys, say, the president's toothpaste? Can you imagine him? Never think of that kind of life. Well, that is the way it was in the steel mill. And every day I would have these names, like superintendent in charge of works. How's that for a name? In charge of works. And I would come up to his office, see, and there'd be this square glass. And it would just say, Works Superintendent, stainless steel. Just a little sign. And I would go in, and there'd be soft carpeting. You don't think of this in the steel mill, do you? And you hear music play. And it's kind of perfumed in there. And they've got this Danish furniture all around. And I've got a steel helmet on. You know, when you're working in the steel mill, you wear helmet, goggles. I've got my sheepskin coat on. You wear it summer and winter in the steel mill. The crud is coming down. I got my safety shoes, and I come in with my little bag of mail. See, I walk in, and here's the work superintendent. See, and here's this girl, and she's sitting there. She's one of these beautiful girls. It's the first receptionist I ever met. You know, my idea of a receptionist were these tall, skinny girls that worked in dentist's office. This is a real receptionist. Beautiful girl. She's got 7 phones. One of them pink. One of them is connected directly to the Kremlin. Oh, yeah, and another one goes directly to the White House. This is the work superintendent. And I have his little bag of mail, see. I come in, I say, I put it down. How's Mr. Gillies today? And she'd look up at me and she'd say, very well, thank you. Then I'd go out, see, and I felt I was in touch with the infinite. It's like arriving at the gate of heaven and you knock, you got mail for God, see? And you say, how's the chief today? And St. Peter says, very well, give me the mail, please. He's feeling good today. And you walk away, Peter, you got the inside dope, see? And I would walk through the steel mills I have been in Mr. Gillies' office. All the other workers, millions of workers, worked in the steel mills who didn't even know that such a man existed. They were so low on the scale that they didn't know there was a work superintendent named Mr. Gillies. You got to see him? Every day I go in there, and I get excited. And then the next minute, I'd be in the superintendent of the blast furnace. How do you think he looks? Do you think he looks like a Wallace Beery? Yeah, you get the idea, blast furnace? The superintendent in charge of blast furnaces looked like David Niven. He was a man of exquisite sensibility and taste. A man reputedly owning 3 yachts that were always at ready in the Chicago harbor. And so you never got close to this guy. The superintendent in charge of the open heart. How did he look? He looked like, do you ever see pictures of Judge Louis Stone when he played Andy Hardy's father? He looked like a Supreme Court justice. And so every day I'd go into these guys. And every 2 weeks, here is the denouement. I would get my paycheck. Well, I was on the monthly payroll, which meant that I got a cool $86 a month. I was considered an executive trainee. That's a very fancy phrase for serfdom. That gets around a lot of those laws, And I was an executive trainee, a mail boy, and I was running back and forth with the safety shoes and the goggles and stuff. And every 2 weeks on a Friday, I would get my check. And it was a 2-week check, see. And I would get my check as like $41, less 6 cents for Social Security. Something like that. 4 cents off for laundry. They would take $1.50 off for broken safety glasses. Little things like that. And I would have my check, it would say $36.97. And I'd open it up, and it was green. And it said, Mr. Gene Parker Shepard, serial number 14-17-23-6, executive trainee, $37. I take my money. That was a lot of dough, see? I'm just a kid working there in the summertime, all excited. I tuck it in my watch pocket, and I go running on with my mail, see? All right, you got the scene. One day, I get my check. It comes. Little flat, simple, unadorned envelope. I stick it in my pocket, and I run over the whole route. And now I'm on my way back. See, it's about 2.5 hours later. I'm exhausted. And I take this thing out of my pocket. I'm sitting in the truck. I open it up. It is a check for $1,232. And it is made out to the superintendent of works. I have gotten the wrong paycheck. I got his paycheck, and I can imagine him getting mine. They always have just enough to go around, see? And I got this guy's paycheck, And at first, I can't believe it. I look at this thing, and I'm sitting in the truck with 6 other mail boys. We're all riding along, and I take a look at this check. It says $1,200. $1,200. I look, this is what this son of a gun got in 2 weeks. $1,200, 2 weeks. And he was never in his office. Yeah, he was always out. He was always on a Caribbean cruise or something. So $1,200. And I'm sitting in the truck, and I'm sweating, and I can see the blast furnace out there, and I can see the open heart. I could smell the oil and hear the ground thundering like that, see? And I got this check. There was a moment. What do you do? All right. What do you do? Well, I'm going to tell you what you do. It ain't the same as what you should do. It isn't. It never is. It's like, what do you think would happen if George Armstrong Custer got that? 35. Oh, he wouldn't have kept it. No. That's what the klutz would have done. 3 weeks later, he's in the slam. Oh, that's what you'd have done, Jack. That's why you're here tonight and not at Sardi's. Oh, no. That is not what George Armstrong Custer would have done. I can see George Armstrong Custer. 5 minutes after he got the wrong check, he is now in his Sunday suit, all dressed up. And 10 minutes later, he is at Mr. Gillies' office. And he says, I have a very important message for Mr. Gillies. And the girl looks up at him and says, is it personal? He looks right in the eye and says, baby, you have no idea how personal it is. You tell Mr. Gillies it has to do with his next month's rent. And you tell him it has to do with that chick he's keeping over there on the south side. And you tell him I've got the necessary. And 5 minutes later, he's in front of Mr. Gillies. He says, Mr. Gillies, I have something here that I think might be of some importance to you. Now, before I divulge this, Mr. Gillies, maybe you and I ought to talk about my current status. Mr. Gillies, I have a check for $1,200. Are you interested in talking? Well, I suspect there would have been a new brigadier general. Or at least Mr. Gillies would know his name from that time on. What do you think I did? Why do you think I'm down here in this hole? All the while, my brain, I got the right thoughts, My brain says, get dressed up and go put the squeeze on that guy. Get out of the mailroom and move. And then I start to think, and then there's a terrible thing, that awful moment of knowing something you shouldn't know. I knew how much the general works superintendent made to the penny. Shouldn't know that kind of stuff. It's like finding out, it's like, you remember the first time you found out how much your dad made? And it was $32? And you heard a big argument at 3 o'clock in the morning about why there couldn't be another set of high tops in this family and why you couldn't have a refrigerator. And you don't want to know it. Well, all the way back to the mailroom, I got this guy's check, see. I walk in, and here's my boss. And there's 6 other mail boys. And a mail boy next to me. Freddie Roller, he's sorting the mail. He said, here's 2 for Gillies. And I take 2 and I throw them up. I said, hey, Freddie, I got a raise. Freddie says, you got a raise? I said, yeah, I got a raise. Look at this. I show him the check for $1,200. Freddie goes down on the floor. He knew that I knew somebody in the front office. And just like that, I chickened out, and I go over to Mr. Moss, and I says, Mr. Moss, I think I've got the wrong check. He was my boss, and I put it down in front of him, and Mr. Moss was white. He looked at the boss's paycheck, and he was white. He was making $47 a week. I want to tell you that the morale of the mailroom went to 0 that day. And the funny part of it was that ever since that time when I would go into Mr. Gillies' office, that girl just looked at me with chilly silence. I was the kid who knew how much the boss made. And I learned, if you're ever going to make it, fella, play it big, all the way. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
This is WOR Radio, your station for news.
Palisades has the ride, Palisades has the fun. Come on over. Shows and dancing are free, so's the parking, so gee. Come on over. Palisades from coast to coast, where a dime buys the most. Palisades Amusement Park swings all day and after dark. Ride the coaster, get cool in the waves, in the pool, you'll have fun. So come on over.
Swim in the pool at Palisades Amusement Park. Tuesdays and Thursdays are bargain days. Many rides are 5 and 10 cents. There are over 190 thrilling rides and attractions. Free parking, plus $3,500 in merchandise given away free every day. Tomorrow afternoon, free big show. See recording stars, The Perfect Strangers, Reparata and the Deltrons, D.D. Warwick, The Kentucky Gentlemen, and many others, all in person at Palisades. WOR AM and FM, New York. See Ray Milland, Grace Kelly, and Robert Cummings in Dial M for Murder. It's in color tomorrow night at 8 on WOR-TV Channel 9. 11 o'clock, time for Ed Pettit and the news.
Good evening, everyone. Here is the late hour news, the 11 p.m. edition. Ed Pettit reporting. The strike of 25,000 British seamen has taken its first big encouraging turn. After long weeks of dispute and haggling, the leadership has accepted as the basis for negotiation a new offer from the ship owners, adding 9 days to the annual vacation time, cutting the weekly working hours from 56 to 40 over the next 12 months, and in return, the seamen would agree to a cut in overtime work at sea. Officials say if talks go well next week, things could be back to normal by the end of the week. James Meredith, fully recovered from a sniper's bullet, was back in the line of march in Mississippi today. His return prompted March leader to bury differences, at least for the moment. Today's route ran for 15 hot miles to Tougaloo College, some 8 miles from Jackson. Sammy Davis Jr., Marlon Brando, and other celebrities chartered a jet to Mississippi to entertain the marchers tonight. Tomorrow, they'll do the last 8 miles to Jackson. Cleveland police used all the facilities at their command tonight to prevent a repetition of unrest in that city's east side. They're using cruisers, ambulance wagons, mounted police, and motorcycle troops, also a helicopter equipped with a searchlight to try to maintain order. Red gunners downed one of our helicopters in South Vietnam's Central Highlands tonight. 6 men aboard, all of them killed, and red ground fire caught 2 U.S. Navy jets over North Vietnam. 2 Americans were picked up, a third is still missing. Both U.S. and South Vietnamese officials are talking optimistically tonight about the outcome of the war. Advisors to Premier Key think it might be reduced to police action within a year. They base some of their optimism on the present tide of battle, some on the state of hopelessness being shown by many prisoners for the first time. French President de Gaulle saw the Soviet launch an unmanned satellite today, something no other Western leader has ever been given a chance to see. Today's blast-off was from a top-secret base in Central Asia. De Gaulle is currently touring the provinces of the Soviet Union. Senator Mike Mansfield of Montana said the French leader may be talking to the Soviets about his earlier bid to neutralize Southeast Asia in connection with the Vietnam peace bid. Mansfield said if so, it's a good idea and we should welcome it. In the last few hours, rain showers have broken the long hot spell in upstate New York, and so much rain fell so fast in Saratoga Springs tonight that fire trucks bound for a fire got bogged down, and tonight's harness racing program had to be called off. No rain yet in New York City, but the weatherman says it may come sometime during the night. Doctors and dentists striking the city health department for higher pay and other job provisions say it's an insult to be offered 20 cents more an hour. The city claims it's most unprofessional for such doctors and dentists to have walked out in the midst of negotiations. And the death toll remains 5 in the pileup this afternoon on the Northern State Parkway of 5 cars. A head-on, splintering, flaming pileup near Albertson, Long Island. In sports, baseball, in the American League, Detroit beat Minnesota 1-0. The White Sox beat the Yankees 2-1. Kansas City topped Cleveland 7-1. Tonight, Baltimore against the Angels in California. That one just getting underway. In the National League, the Mets over the Cubs 9-3. In the first of two, Atlanta 5, Dodgers 4. Second game, sixth inning score, Atlanta 1, Dodgers 0. Under the lights, eighth inning, Philadelphia 8, Pittsburgh 5. In the seventh inning, San Francisco 2, Cincinnati 2. In the sixth inning, Houston 2, St. Louis 0. Buck Passer won the $108,000 Arlington Classic in Chicago today. He beat Creme de la Creme by 4 1.5 lengths. He, Jr., was third. The winner, by the way, set a new world mile mark of 1 minute 32 3/5 seconds. Number 4, Perfect Freight, won tonight's feature at Roosevelt Raceway. Daily double winners were number 6, Dusty Dream, and number 6 again, KM Regal. Here now is the weather forecast for New York City and vicinity. Considerable cloudiness and fog tonight, with a 30% chance of occasional drizzle. Low tonight in the 60s. Partial sunshine tomorrow afternoon. Sunday high in the 80s. And for Monday, partly cloudy, hot, and humid. Manhattan reading at the moment 66 degrees. Humidity 84%. Wind from the northeast at 10, gusting to 25. Barometer reads 30.24 inches and is rising. That's the latest from the WOR newsroom. Ed Pettit reporting. Have a nice weekend. Now back to Gene Shepard at the Village Limelight.
This is WOR AM and FM, your RKO General Station in New York.
All right, come and get me. Okay, I'll hold it down. Move. All right, Eddie's. All right, column of twos, follow me. Now, aren't you ashamed of yourselves? A fantastic demonstration. And isn't it terrible how good it felt? Boy, you ought to see it, when the hate starts pouring up out of here in the limelight, when you get them going. You see this little old lady sitting down there with a flowered print dress. And she's got these rimless glasses. And I say, come on, baby, let's hear some booze. Come on, let's hear some hissing. And she goes. And then she turns. And Emily's sitting next to her. He says, oh, for heaven's sakes, how silly. Do you think I could try one? And then she goes. And you can hear the upper plate rattle. Then I holler, let's go, let's go. And then she goes, boo. And within 30 seconds, there are 2 saber-toothed tigers. Great big stainless teeth. One of them gets up and brandishes a catch-up bottle. And she says, kill him, kill him. Oh, it's right below the surface. That hate. And, oh, by the way, speaking, somebody here about 2 minutes ago says, tell a story about a prom. And listen to this. Before we do that, tonight, this is the month. June. This is the month where millions of people are beginning that long road. They got their BA. They've got that little piece of paper. And they see the world, as opening up like some vast accordion. Yeah, it's got endless mirrors. And it's like a huge fun house. And everywhere you turn, there's going to be that thing called success. And it's a new fun world. It's all going to be fun, too. There's nothing that isn't fun. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you this. Did you see the new ads for this bandage? Have you heard them on the radio? There's a new bandage that's in 7 decorator shades. Yeah, it's 7 decorator shades. It goes right on your finger or your head or your ear if it's half cut off. And it's called the new fun bandage. It says it's fun to put on. It comes, you can get it plaid. You can get it Pepsi-Cola pink, for the fun generation. And the whole commercial, it starts out and you hear this kid go, oh, oh, oh. And you hear this little girl says, oh, goody. Hold still, Johnny. Here, I've got the new fun bandage. I've got the new Scotch plaid color. Isn't it fun? And he looks, you hear the kid, and he says, oh, gee, that is fun. And then she says, wait, now hold still, I'll put it on. Zip, it goes on just like that, and the music goes, da, 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 da. And he says, oh, wow, do it again. Cut me again. We'll put another one on my back. This is the new fun concept that even rottenness is fun. Oh, have you seen the Alka-Seltzer commercial? You seen that one? Oh, it's a beautiful commercial. It shows the new dynamic fun principle in action, where everything is fun. This is one of those very hip commercials. The kind that wins awards, but never sells the product. It's beautiful. It comes on, it's black. It's photographed by Ingmar Bergman. Yeah, it's a very hip commercial. And you see the light. It's shining through this, what looks like a prism. And it's glowing. It's black. And the music behind it is this very hip jazz. Ba-ba-do-da-da-da-da-dee. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-dee. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And you don't see anything for a minute. And then the camera dollies back, and you see it's a glass. It's a shot glass. Actually, it's an old-fashioned glass. It's a little glass, see, and it's got 2 ice cubes. And then you see dropping into this glass, this beautiful glass, this cocktail music is playing behind it. Da-da-do-dee-dee, da-do-dee, la-da-da-da-dee, la-da-da-do-ba-do-dee. You see this tablet drop in. And then you see this clear, sparkling liquid come down. Da-da-do-dee-dee-dee-dee. And you see these bubbles. And the music goes, and then that voice says, have you tried the new in drink? Alka-Seltzer on the rocks with a twist of lemon peel. Da-da-do-dee, la-da-do-dee. Yes, it's the new fun in drink. Alka-Seltzer on the rocks with a twist of lemon peel. Da-da-da-dee-dee-dee. And you sit there, and you can hardly wait after you watch that to get a gut ache. You say, oh, I wish I was sick today. And I thought this is the new dynamic fun principle. And I can see this guy, I can see it in action, see. Here's this guy at this bar. He's been sitting there for 3 days. He's been on his way home from that big conference of all the salesmen now, and he didn't quite get past J.P. Delaney's on 3rd Avenue. Here he is, see? And every once in a while, way down inside, you hear... 4 quarts of scotch, 7 Pepsi-Colas, and a half a case of Rheingold, Plus those 2 gigantic salami sandwiches. All them hors d'oeuvres. And now he's sitting there, he's got 7 eyeballs. And all of a sudden the bartender comes over and he says, would you like the new in drink? And the guy looks at it. He says, wait a minute. Ah! The bartender says, wasn't that fun? That's part of the new fun world we're all living in, It's fun. Have you seen that one of the automobile wreck? Have you seen that fantastic commercial that opens? You see the highway. There's a shot, see, like this. And you see the ground. And you see spinning in the ground. You see this hubcap all bashed. You seen that one? It spins. Yeah, it's groomed. And you see these great big clodhoppers. Yeah, it's a state cop, state fuzz, see? You see the feet walking along like that, and the camera follows them, see? It's real close shot. And then there's a shot into the weeds. And you see the smoke coming out, and you see the busted trunk, and you see the windows, and the whole thing is wrecked. One car's upside down, the other car's in the trees, But somehow behind it there is bucolic, restful music. The kind of music, and the announcer comes on and says, yes, thank heavens they were insured by Allstate. Somehow it's touching, you know? Kind of makes having a wreck fun. I can just see this guy in his hospital room, and he's all hanging up like that, you know. You know, I love those two hands that come out with a little house, you know. You can see a little house all burning up, and second-story men climbing out of the top windows, you know. Bunch of juvenile delinquents have written four-letter words all over the side that says, "It's all right, you're in safe hands." So you see, insurance makes it all right. That reminds me, have you seen this great picture, which we talked about earlier? It's this picture, you see it every Sunday. It's in the New York Times, all the official papers all over the country. It's this wonderful scene of Mommy and Daddy and two little kids. And underneath it is the caption that says, "Spend a restful, wonderful summer afternoon wandering through Green Acres Cemetery." Yes, and you can kill two birds with one stone. Says, while you're there, drop in and pick out a suitable family plot and make a down payment on our new family mortgage plan for 4 matched headstones. Steiner's cards, all honored. We give green stamps. And it says total security. The man who looks ahead is looking for total security for his family. And I can just see that wonderful Sunday afternoon. You seen that ad? Can't you see Daddy? He gets up, you know, and he's looking at the Times. You know that great Sunday morning feeling? He's knee-deep in crossword puzzles and stuff, you know. And the kids are running around. You know how kids always do in the Doris Day movies and that? You know, running around, "Daddy, Daddy," hi, giggling. And Mama looks so beautiful. She looks like she's pushing 19. Yeah, she does in that picture. She feels like Bridget Bardot. And he says, "Hey, I got a great idea for this afternoon. Let's all get out. Let's pile into the Mustang. And let's go out to restful Green Acres. And let's all buy a family set of headstones. What do you say? Come on, gang, come on. I'll take my credit card, and you bring some Pepsi-Cola. After all, we're part of the fun generation. You bring that. And we'll go out, and somehow, you know, at the end, it says total security. Have you noticed that man's idea of total security today in 1966 is to be dead? I mean, they can't get you there. Nothing, you know. You're gone. You're dead. And I always have this only a true unbeliever can feel that security is found in this state. True unbeliever. I could just imagine the guy he's made his down payments. He's got all 4 of them picked out. They're matched. One says Mommy, one says Daddy, and one says Jimmy, and one says Barbie. Have you seen the Barbie and Ken dolls? Isn't that a great little family? Barbie and Ken with her little girlfriend, Midgie. Oh, yeah, you know what the big argument that is raging right now in the Barbie and Ken world? It's the pill. Oh, yeah, you can buy it now at the dime store. They get everything. Don't look so embarrassed. Go down there someday and look. Take a look at what the kids are playing with, honey. Do you know what you can get at one of the big toy stores here now today? You can get a little plasma kit. Yeah, where the kid gives the other kid plasma. You know, for a real bad wound, he hooks it up, you know, runs in the plasma, and you get toy plasma. See, it goes into intravenous. And so I can just see this guy, you know, he's paid for the 4 headstones. He's got the plot. Oh, one of the great lines in this ad says, "Close to all bus connections." Somehow you kind of like to be very close to the bus, you know. I have a feeling that a lot of guys, to many guys today, death is so unreal that a lot of guys are making plans to have their answering service number on the back. You know, on the back of the headstone in case a real important call comes, call my answering service. And a lot of guys want their resume on the back now. Are you aware this is a new trend? A resume, you get your credits on the back. And by the way, if you're an executive type, you do not want to be buried in the employee department. Oh, yeah. You've made if you got the executive washroom key, you want to keep it. I think that's what most of us have against the idea of heaven. You get there, and everybody's got the same scene. They all got the same credit card. I think heaven has to go out in a status-conscious society. And I can see this guy, he's bought 4 of them, see. He's got the plot. And every Saturday they go out and have a picnic there. Yeah, they suggest that. It's kind of an interesting picnic, isn't it? No wonder the kids all dig Frankenstein and the monsters and all that, And they're sitting there, they're eating the chicken bones, and, laying away the sandwiches. And they start going home after one of those great fun afternoons at the Evergreen Rest-Away Bide-A-While Cemetery. They don't call them cemeteries anymore. They call them eternal rest havens. It's like an eternal trip to the Catskills. Somehow, it's a rest haven. And so they're coming home from their big Saturday at the rest haven. They're driving home. And all of a sudden, this Mack truck is coming at them, He says, okay, kids, this is it. Eternal security. And boom! And 30 seconds later, here he is. The fires are higher, and they're fantastic fires. He's got a shovel. And there's this guy walking around with a long tail. He says, come on, Mac, get moving. He says, now, wait a minute. I paid for eternal rest. He says, well, depends on how you define rest, how you define eternity. And I've often felt, as you look through these ads, you really see the premise and the background of the world that we come from. Listen to this bit here. Now, has it occurred to you that graduation is one of the important moments in a man's life? I delivered last week a graduation address. Isn't that silly? I really did, It was fantastic. Yeah, I found myself, all these people got these hats on with the tassels, and these old duffers are sitting up here with me, old Professor Snodgrass and a whole bunch. And this professor said, and now here's a man who can give you some advice to carry through your battle of life. I'm sitting there, see. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, I'm going to tell somebody how to carry on in the battle of life? And I look at the kids. They're all sitting there, with their black gowns on, their hats. And they've got flowers, And the boys are all in black. You know that? And all the girls are in white, symbolizing purity and beauty. And by the way, the black ones symbolize evil and decadence. Boy, the cards are loaded every day of your life. Yeah, that's the truth. See, I asked this old guy on the platform, I says, why do they have the 2 colors? And he says, well, of course, you see, the white signifies beauty. It signifies chastity and honesty. I said, oh. I hear couple of these chicks sitting there, They're giving me the eyeball at 600 yards, Again, it all is a matter of definition, how you define beauty and truth and chastity, see? And the first thing that hit me is how fantastically innocent all the boys look. They all look like they're 9 years old, Yeah, they're tall, skinny guys, and you can see their tennis shoes sticking out from underneath. Yeah, they walk along, and they sit down, they look embarrassed, and they all like... The chicks, totally different scene. Oh, boy, you can hear... That's the whole new scene, I'll tell you. It's like a whole bunch of Sophia Lorens. I can hear tom-toms, And I look down there, and this guy says to me, he says, they've been looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And up in front, this man is talking. And he says, here's a man who can give us some words which we will carry through the battle of life, which will provide us with a means of living more successfully. And I look over at this bunch of kids, and they look up at me. I look at them, and all of a sudden, the entire graduating class burst into one blast of laughter. And here are all the fat mamas and the fat daddies sitting down there. What are they laughing at? They figured I was going to give them the answer, you know. So I look at the kids look at me, I says, oh, wow, you know. And 10 seconds later, I am up there giving them deathless words. And I'm hit immediately with the time I'm graduating. We all graduate, see. And here's this guy up there. He's a state senator. And, by the way, he looked like a state senator. He had wavy hair. And he had this fantastic delivery. That rolling delivery that comes from long years of working on the Shakespearean stage of the U.S. Senate. Where the men walk back and forth and they say, a spot upon thy escutcheon. And then they wait, and the applause dies down. And we're all sitting out there waiting for him to do something, you know. Well, here he is up there. Oh, by the way, did you hear the great line that Everett Dirksen said the other day? Speaking of magnificent performers, you ever seen Dirksen work? Oh, let me tell you, Dirksen can get more out of a simple weather report than Orson Welles can get out of King Lear. And I have seen Dirksen work. I remember one time Dirksen was standing up there, and I happened to be in the gallery, and he's down there. He owns the stage, you know. Dirksen stands on this stage, and he walks for a minute, and all the senators wait. The master Wurlitzer organ of them all. You know, and they all wait. See, they sit there, and he walks back and forth till he has his audience in the palm of his hands. And then he says, gentlemen, I have this afternoon received a dire communique, and I believe that it's the sort of thing that Americans everywhere are deeply concerned with. To quote Seneca, nay, I will instead quote Erasmus, who said, a flower in the vast desert of time is a spot of God's breath. At the silence, you could cut it with a knife. See? What's he going to talk about? What is he going to say? And then he says, I have before me a communication which states that the grand illustrious state, one of the cornerstones of the structure of democracy, the state of Illinois. Oh, when he says Illinois, it's like the last movement of Beethoven's Ninth. You can hear a heavenly chorus singing of men's love. You can hear Schiller's ode to mankind ringing, the magnificent state of Illinois. It was rumored that the state flower is about to be changed to the lowly marigold. The lowly marigold, I say to you, and there is not a lowly flower in God's eye. And I'm sitting there. He's talking about the state flower of Illinois. And all the while I can hear the rumbling of cannons in the distance. I can hear continents sinking into the sea. And I recognize that oratory is one of the great gifts of mankind. And oh, by the way, speaking of empty oratory, what radio station is this, my friends? Hit it, please. And what magnificent city on the banks of this great continent, this flower of mankind. There's always one little clutch. That is typical Jersey humor. You have heard the Marty in full flower. The Marty who, when Laurence Olivier says to be or not to be, is the question. And he says in the third word, no, where's the John? That's the question. Yes, it's the typical Marty. His number 9 IQ and his size 12 shoes, walking through the beach of time, What city are we in, then? Hit it. All right. Well, all right. I am sitting there. I'm a kid, see. And up on that stage is this senator. And I remember my father. My father, all the time when I was a kid, he talked about two things. Well, three things. The Chicago White Sox, used cars, and politics. Not necessarily in that order. And he used to interchange them. He would mix them up. Sometimes he would start a discussion of politics and bring in the White Sox. And then he would go into the price of used cars all at one time. And so I'm sitting there in this crowd, you know, I'm about to graduate. Up there on the platform is this man. And he's looking down at us. 600 kids. You know, how many of you came from a graduating class that was about the size of the average block party? I mean, 600 people as far as the eye could see, you know, they're sitting, and we're in this fantastic auditorium. Actually, it was a gymnasium. Have you noticed how many graduations are held in gymnasiums? How symbolic that is. Already the scent of defeat. Yeah, you know, you see that scoreboard up there. It says home team 0-0-0. You know, and you watch, and you could smell the locker room. Yeah, you could smell, you know, that smell of the boys' swimming pool. And you can smell 14,000 generations of decaying lunches. Yeah, and you're sitting in this place, see, and all the teachers are down over here to the left, and here you are, and I'm sitting in this rented gown. How many of you remember the moment when you brought your gown home and you tried it on, and your mother said, "We got to have a picture"? And they had this little camera, you know, this $4 camera. And it didn't have any flashes or anything like that. And you wound up standing on the lawn in your gown, see? And you're standing next to this iron deer, you know, and these old, dead, dying, decaying geraniums. And you're standing in your gown, see? And your mother keeps saying, "Now hold still, will you?" She says, "All right, now hold still. Here we go." Uh-oh. Just a minute, you're standing. She says, "Wait a minute, I got to check the camera. Here we go now. Hold still." It doesn't work. And you're starting to sweat. You know that moment when all the people are looking out of the other houses? And you got this funny thing on you with a thing, you know, and you're wearing what looks like a big black nightgown, you know. You're sweating in this thing. And then Mrs. Bruner, I remember when I graduated, Mrs. Bruner comes out on the porch. I was the first guy in the entire block to graduate from anything. That's a fact. I'm telling you, no kidding. Every kid I knew, the guys that quit school at 8 or you know, 15, they quit school. Mr. Bruner did one time get out of the state pen. You know, but I'm the first guy to graduate, and Mrs. Bruner is standing on the porch, and she's watching. And I'm standing out there. My mother's taking a picture. And Junior Bruner, who was 2 years younger than me, Junior Bruner is under the porch of his house reading dirty books, which he always did between the hours of 1 and 4. And he is under the porch, see, and Mrs. Bruner is standing up there, and the sun is beating down. And you can see the steel mill, the smoke riding high in the air over the steel mills. And incidentally, 3 days later, I'm going in the Army. I got my draft notice already, you know, the whole scene. I'm standing on the porch. And Mrs. Bruner looks over and she says, "You look very nice, Jeannie." Yeah. Standing like this. How do you stand in a gown? You stand like this? You know, or do you stand just stand? You put the hat on at a cocky angle? You wear it straight across? I'm standing, see. And then Mrs. Bruner says, "Aren't you proud of him?" My mother says, "Yes." My mother, who never graduated from anything, she says, "Yes, of course." And then Mrs. Bruner says, Junior, come out from under the porch. Look at Gene. He's graduating. And Bruner looks out from under the porch and he goes, It was a look that says, think, sell out. It was a point of honor not to graduate, you know. Here I am, you know, I'm going through with it. And so this big day happens and we're sitting in the gym. You can smell, you know, the whole life of school, dried ink. You know that smell of school? They all smell the same. We're sitting there. Well, first we came in this long procession, and everybody looked different. I mean, really looked different. I mean, the girls are kind of old, very serious. And over here, Flick's pimples stop popping, you know. You know, everything. He's very straight, you know. Everybody's walking, you know. And we're sitting in this. They put us, first of all, in the auditorium to wait until they started to play Pomp and Circumstances. We're all sitting in the auditorium. And people are, you know, making kind of snotty little remarks. You know. Hey, Charlie, you look great. Why don't you wear that all the time? You look better than that than anything. Kind of nervous. And then from a distance we hear da, 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 dee, da, da. And with that, H. McCullough, Hell on Wheels McCullough. Miss Helen McCullough, by the way, who was famous in our school for one thing. She once had a story printed in a magazine. And from that time on, she was our resident writer. And the story was the most interesting character I ever met at Yellowstone Park. Yeah, and she had it framed, you know, and she was always a writer, you know. From that day on, she was a writer. She sold something to the Reader's Digest and all that. So Miss McCullough's up, says, all right, boys and girls, stand up now. In just a few moments, you are going to be leaving our high school. Now, please, just once, walk in step. And it suddenly hit us. We are leaving. I mean, I'll tell you, man. And we're walking. We're walking past that long line of lockers. Each kid had his own locker. And you know how, you remember when you had lockers and there would be this terrible rumor that the principal has let out a note that tomorrow night all lockers are going to be inspected, and you take down your dirty pictures and all that stuff you keep at the bottom, the stuff that said stolen from the Hammond High Track Department. You know, you're frantically hiding all kinds of junk. And so here we are marching past this. We could smell the gym, the swimming pool, and Esther Jane Alberry is up ahead of me, see? And next to me, I'll never forget this unbelievable moment. I'll tell you when I get off the air. I can't tell you what this girl next to me said. This beautiful blonde girl. I'll tell you after we get off the air. She whispered it to me under my mortarboard. You know, and I thought to myself, now I find out. 4 years I've been in the same classroom with this chick, and she's been sitting up in the front of the room looking like a plaster doll. Now I find out it's too late. And we're walking through this whole scene. I remember my graduation very clearly, and now we come down through the gym. And here it is, this great big field house. And by the way, out in Indiana, all institutions of greater learning revolve around the gym. The classrooms are like vestigial offshoots. It's the gym where it happens. It was here that the sectional basketball tournament was lost. It was here that the coach of the football team threatened to have all of us kicked out of school. Yes, it was here that all those great moments of our life have been lived, and we walked through into the gym. And sitting down over to the left here were all the parents, all the mothers and the fathers. And you never think of a lot of people in your classes as actually having parents. Yeah, a whole bunch of strange-looking people are sitting there, you know, all looking. We come filing down. And now we sit. And the band is playing. Pomp and Circumstances. And there is a brief pause, and then they start the Star-Spangled Banner. We all stand. And the sweat is pouring down now. You know that feeling of the sweat coming down under your gown? It's dripping. My coat is off. My new suit is just dripping. I can feel it itching and scratching. And the girl next to me starts to snip. She says, "We're graduating." I said, "That's right, baby." I'm trying to play it cool. Yeah, boy, am I glad to get out. I look around, the gym, and they're playing the Star-Spangled Banner. Then they stop, and out on the platform steps our principal, Mr. Spohn, who forever will always mean to me the epitome of the establishment, of education, of dignity, of officialdom, and hell. Oh, yeah, Spohn was impregnable. And he stands up there on the platform and he says, "Class, in a few minutes, you will be going out into the world. And I want to tell you that it has not been easy having you here." Yeah, I thought, yeah, that's true. Because I remember the big riot. You see all these things, and all the teachers look strange. They're dressed in their Sunday clothes. You know how teachers look in their Sunday clothes? They've got girdles on, and they look skinny. They've got funny hats. And Miss M.L. Scott, who always cried when she read Evangeline. Can you imagine a teacher crying, reading Evangeline? She'd say, "Upon the waters of Arcadia, dear Evangeline." And all the kids would say, "Oh, listen to that old slob, wow, And now she's crying because we're graduating, and the whole thing is getting out of hand. I could hear people sniffing and all that. And then this man is standing up in front of us, the senator. And he said, and I will always remember this one line. I did not realize at the time it was a cliche. At that time, it seemed so fantastic to me. He said, "As we, from the generation ahead of you, hand the torch of liberty, the torch of progress of this great land, as we hand it from our failing hands and put it into your strong young hands, we do so with faith in the future of America." I'm sitting there. They're giving me the torch. Little did I realize it was something else they were giving me. It was something else I was to learn 3 days later when I'm in the Army, I didn't even know the term at that time, And I'm sitting there, and my graduation, it was all part of the scene. He went on, and I remember this fantastic voice rolling out. And then finally he said, "In the words of that great bard, I want to leave you with this one thought. Hail and farewell." Hail and farewell. That's all over now. And we started to go up on the platform, one after the other. But there I am, see, I'm behind this little fat girl. I'm in the S's. Way at the end of the line, there's all these people walking up, see? And they're getting these little things. You know that fantastic moment of seeing your diploma up there? And you say, "Oh, mine, there'll be a mistake. Mine is not there. Mine isn't there." Or the last minute, they'll say, "Oh, excuse me, your name is Shepard. We have a note here on your..." Oh, no. Oh, yeah, Mark Twain was right. I hear some guy recently quoting him on the air. Mark Twain said this. He said that if you take a telegram and mark it, "All is discovered," and send it to any man, he'll start running. The minute he gets it, "Oh, no." And so I'm standing behind there, and we're walking, and it was a guy, I'll never forget, Simonson. Simonson is walking right behind me. And he's walking along, and he is saying, I never heard this, have you ever seen boxers when they're about to fight, they do the cross and all this stuff, and they say a rosary? He's going, bye, 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 bye. He is trying to pray his way out, see? And I hear this. It's coming behind me. He's crossing himself, everything under his robe, And I keep turning around to Simonson. I know it's too late for him, And ahead of me is this girl. She's crying, and the whole thing. Oh, it's getting out of hand. We're walking up. And one by one, we walk across the platform. And as we go across, Mr. Spohn takes the top one off. It's fantastic how it works, isn't it? Takes the top one out of this pile, millions of them, hands it to you, and says, congratulations. And you look at him. He's, congratulations for what? For getting out. For graduation, for making it. For fooling them all. For cheating so good. Congratulations. I shake his hand, Here goes the biggest C- student who ever got out, squeaking through, and I get past. And here's the senator. And the senator had a great way of shaking hands. Have you ever had your hand shaken by a man who knows how to shake a hand? I mean, you feel warmth. You feel life coming through it. Here's the way you shake it. Get up here, Frank. He's my prop. The guy walks up, see? Now, there's a rookie handshaker. This like this, That's obviously a Rotary Club member. Here's the way a senator shakes hands. He allows the man to put his hand up first. See, he lures him. Up it goes, and he goes like this. He does not shake a hand. He vibrates it gently with love. And out of that love, it pours out. He puts the plus here. This is the negative. See, he's got both ends of the scale. The current flows through. He looks you right in the eye and says, good luck, son. And he turns like that briefly, says, good luck. Shakes you and sits you down. You notice how quick he gets rid of the guy? That is the mark of a good handshaker. Now, I'll show you a bad handshaker. Get up here. Here's a bad handshaker who's a rookie handshaker, and you see him once in a while. They'll hold up a whole column for miles. It's like this. They keep, notice they don't know which one to let go quick. If you let go and pull your hand, he's still got it, see? You go, good luck. So what happens is they both stand up there like this. Good luck. It's good, very good handshake. Good luck. Well, that is a bad handshake. This senator knew how to shake the hand of 700 people. 700 people in less than a minute and a half. And by the way, every person he shook hands with felt that personally he had been made love to. And so he's shaking the hands, all the way on down. And I get my diplomacy. I got it like this. I'm walking down. It's in my hands. My diploma. Gee, I could feel it. It had, the kind of diploma, we got the kind that had the suede envelope. It's got a cover. It's black and it's got a seal on it. Really felt good, see. So I got my diploma. I walk back to my seat. I sit down. I got it, It's my diploma. They're all sitting around. They've got their diplomas, and I can see kids looking, see. And I think I'm going to steal a look, see. It's a blank sheet of paper. I'm telling you, it was a blank sheet of paper. How about that? I sat there. What am I going to tell my mother? Old man Pittenger did it. For 4 years, he said he was going to keep me from graduating because of them quadratic equations. And that time that I didn't turn in those 4 assignments, he did it. I'm not going to graduate. I sat there. 4 years. And sitting next to me, here was Simonson. Simonson has got his open, and there it is. It's this piece of parchment. It's got a big seal on it. And on the top it says, Scott Simonson. They even use his nickname on his diploma. Is hereby graduated from high school with full honors. He has completed all the necessary courses and should be considered official from here on in. Signed, Mr. Spohn. And there was a seal. I hid mine. I closed it. I'm telling you, this is a true story. I was terrified. Can you imagine this? I'm terrified. I'm sitting there, 600 kids. How am I going to... We're going to go out to Phil Schmidt's. You know that whole thing after you graduate, you go out for dinner. My Aunt Glenn is sitting out there. My Uncle Tom. They got a Parker pen and pencil set. My mother's going to surprise me with the bull of a watch she got, for graduation, the whole thing. And I got a blank sheet of paper. What am I going to do? I'm sitting. And the heat, oh, boy, was it hot. Oh, fantastic heat. I'm sweating. I am undone. And then they started to play the Star Spangled Banner again. Oh, da, 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 yeah. We stand up, and we had this teacher who always sang soprano. You know, in Indiana, they have a special type of singer. They sing soprano. That's considered good music. And they sing things like, there is a fairy in my garden. And she would sing this stuff all the time at PTA. And now here she is singing, oh, say, we're graduating. And with that, they play, that recessional. We had rehearsed this thing 9 times, but nobody had rehearsed no diploma. This had never once come up. That they have a trapdoor, and every 6th guy, they push the button, down he goes, And I'm standing up there, and they're playing, da, 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 the recessional, we're going down. And the mothers are crying, and the fathers are crying, and I'm crying. For a very different reason. We all go back into this room. They told us we all have to come back. We got to turn in our caps and gowns. And nobody is allowed out of school till you turn it in. Apparently there was a lot of cap and gown rustling. I don't know what the heck to do with it, But, we had to take off our caps and gowns. So I have my little suede envelope. I'm carrying it real tight, see? So I put it down. I'm taking off my cap and gown. And I see coming into the room my Aunt Glenn. Oh, my Aunt Glenn was one of these ladies who, believe me, looked like a pin cushion. You know the kind of pin cushions that's a tomato pin cushion with the little green leaves? She's this little round, wonderful lady, see, with the flowered dress. She was the first one in through the room. She says, Jeannie, I'm so proud. I said, yes, Glenn. And there's mothers, and there's kids, and then there's fathers, and there's aunts, and everybody's getting watches. My mother gives me a watch. My father's standing there. Just put it on. I put it on. Gee, you can hear it. You remember the days when you used to think that the best watch was the one you could hear across the room? Well, let me tell you, this one you could hear for blocks, It was one of these that would tick, 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 tick. It would make your elbow hurt, when it jumped. Yeah, it had a recoil to it, Every time it would tick, it would jump, tick, 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 tick. That's how they got the term tick. Tick, 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 Oh, boo! Well, all right, I'm standing there, and I got my watch on. I got my new Parker pen and pencil set, the presentation model. My Uncle Tom gives me this fantastic gift. He gave me a beautiful pearl-handled pocket knife, the kind that old men give to kids. They think all kids want this. There's a myth that all kids want a knife, I never wanted a knife. There's a beautiful pocket knife, and I got all the stuff. And we're now in the Oldsmobile. Boy, what a moment. We're sitting in the Oldsmobile, see. I am dressed to the absolute nines. all my new graduation clothes, my new suit, which, by the way, I wore till last year. Oh, yeah, it was made Brillo pads in the knees, you know. My new scratchy suit, and I've got this tie, this collar, and the car, it was one of those cars, it was an Oldsmobile, you know the kind where all the windows vibrate? And when you go a certain speed in the car, it goes, grrr, and you can't talk over it, and your aunt always sounds like she's going, and we're sitting in the car, and it's jiggling. My kid brother's next to me, and he keeps saying to me, let me see your diploma. I got it, see. He keeps saying, let me see it. Let me see your diploma. I'm sitting there, and my mother's so proud. She's got my other arm. My old man is driving, and my aunt and my uncle and the whole seat. There's 3 cars in our procession. 3 cars. The whole family. Aunt Kate, Uncle Fred. Uncle Carl was sober that week. Yeah, he brought along his banjo, you know. And so we all file into this place that was traditional for everybody to go after graduation. You know, there's always one, in little towns, there's always one restaurant that's the official restaurant, where the Rotary Club meets on Wednesday, and where they have the big neon sign that keeps lighting. It says, eat. You know, and then it says, chops, steak, big neon sign keeps pointing, eat. And then they got a blue one that lights and says, restrooms. Restrooms. You know, restrooms. And here we were going into this very jazzy restaurant. And my mother had called in, and all the mothers did, of course, and they had set aside 3 tables. And we walked up to the head waiter. He says, oh, yes, the Mr. Gene Shepard party, graduation party for Mr. Shepard, of course. That's me, you know. We all file in and we sit down. And with that, the waiter comes over and he says, compliments of the house. It was the first bottle of wine that I ever actually saw. A lot of wine that was poured out in doorways. I smelt a lot of wine that Uncle Carl spilled on the kitchen floor. Now, it was all used wine he spilled. Well, that was the kind of life, you know, wine. That was wine, you know, and it's in the middle of Sunday afternoon. And we have ordered the chicken, you know, the chicken special. They had 3 specials, chicken, steak, and cheeseburgers. And we ordered the chicken, you know, and they're bringing the chicken. We're all sitting around. And all around me, I can see this big restaurant. There must have been 25 rooms, you know, all attached. And I can see my friends. Here's Simonson, his mother, and they're all singing and yelling, and they're passing the diploma around. They are passing the diploma around. I still have got mine stuck inside my coat. Well, everybody's passing them around. And when all of a sudden my Uncle Carl gets up and he says, hey, Jeannie, he says, how about letting me see that piece of paper? He says, you're the first one in the family to have a piece of paper. He says, and don't forget, you can go anywhere with that piece of paper. My old man, if I had listened to him, he says, graduate, I'd have been a big man today. Let me see the piece of paper. Come on. I said, oh, come on, Uncle Carl. He said, oh, come on, don't be modest. Come on now, let's go. My Uncle Tom, who was my bootlegger uncle, he really was, seriously. Uncle Tom says, show us your diploma, Jeannie. And my mother says, oh, go ahead, Gene. Go ahead, show it to him. I reach in. I take it out. Oh, boy. You want me to go on? Do you? Yeah. Now I know how them gladiators felt. When you go like that, down. I says, all right. I take it out. And I said to my mother, I says, Mom, please don't open it up because you'll get fingerprints on it. And she takes it and she says, oh, well, come on, let me just peek at it. And I said, Ma, she looked at it, and she says, it's blank. My Uncle Carl got up and he says, it's what? And I could see the waiter hurrying over to get the wine back. He says, it's what? And my Uncle Tom sags, and my old man gets up. He says, did you flunk? And you could hear it all over. He said, did you flunk out again? And everybody in the place, their heads turn, like that. And with that, I suddenly see way over at the corner by the piano, I see Mr. Spone. And Mr. Spone gets up and he hurries towards our table. And he says, oh, Mrs. Shepherd. He's talking to my mother. He says, there were 8 children whose diplomas did not come back from the printers. Jean's diploma did not arrive. Holy smokes. I sat back. And Mr. Spone says, congratulations, Jean. And he walked away. And that was the first time that I fell in love with a statue. And right now, I want to give a hand to all those teachers who have suffered with all the pupils in the world ever and have felt that nobody really respected them. Let's hear it. We'll be back next week at the same time. Come on, let's hear it.
This is WOR AM and FM, New York. See Dial M for Murder in color tomorrow night at 8 on Channel 9. At the time signal, 12 o'clock midnight, time for Sandy Lesberg's Nighttime.